And thanks to our friends on the 5, and this is a Fox News alert. Welcome to Hannity. President Trump today calling out Senate Republicans for failing you, the American people, breaking their 7-year promise to repeal and replace Obamacare. Kellyanne Conway, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Rick Grinnell, Joe Concha, Lou Dobbs, Tommy Lahren are all here with reaction. But first tonight, the Senate Republicans have failed yet again on health care. But there is a free market path forward. We'll tell them about it tonight, and also we will expose the anatomy of fake news after the media goes into a feeding frenzy. Why? Because President Trump actually spoke with Vladimir Putin at the G20 dinner, which is what he's supposed to do. Tonight's opening monologue. All right, so after failing to keep their promise to repeal, replace Obamacare, dozens of Senate Republicans met with the president at the White House earlier today. The commander-in-chief let them have it. They needed to hear it. Watch this.
I've been here just 6 months. I'm ready to act. I have pen in hand. Believe me, I'm sitting in that office. I have pen in hand. You never had that before. You know, for 7 years, you
His
had
son-in-law.
an easy route. We'll repeal, we'll replace, and he's never going to sign it. But I'm signing it. So it's a little bit different. But I'm ready to act. For 7 years, you promised the American people that you would repeal Obamacare. People are hurting. Inaction is not an option.
All right, the president is 100% right. He's frustrated. I'm frustrated. I'm sure all of you are frustrated. And you know what? We all have every right to be frustrated because these Republicans have let us down. But tonight, instead of looking backward, I was pretty angry last night. I won't be as angry tonight. I'm going to offer them free market capitalist solutions that even a U.S. senator should be able to understand. Now, the Republican Party, aren't they supposed to be part of the Freedom Party? Don't they believe in capitalism, free markets? Isn't it time to start embracing the things on the campaign trail that they say they stand for? For example, I have interviewed a doctor in Wichita, Kansas. His name, Dr. Josh Umber. He runs Atlas MD. He runs one of the most cost-effective medical practices cooperatives in the country. Now, here's Dr. Umber explaining how this great system is working for people. Take a look.
The idea is direct primary care, which is the new model going forward, where we don't take insurance because we don't need insurance for the common things. Our care is $10 a month for kids, $50 a month for most adults for unlimited visits, no co-pays, free office procedures, and up to 95% savings on medications, labs, imaging, etc. by going wholesale.
You get that? 24/7, 365, access to your own doctor. You even have your doctor's cell phone account. Add to that a catastrophic plan. Now, that with a high deductible, God forbid you have a heart attack, you get cancer, you have a bad accident, you're fully and completely covered for so much less than what you're paying now. This is the type of real solutions Washington is needing. Government, it's never the solution. The free market is. Capitalism is. Now think about how miserably big government, Obamacare, has failed everybody in the country. Remember, we were all supposed to save, on average, $2,500 per family per year. Well, the opposite has happened. Premiums have gone up everywhere. It's gone up between, what, $5,000 and $8,000 since Obamacare is implemented? Okay, people can't afford that. Then the promise, keep your doctor, keep your plan. One of the biggest lies ever told in American politics. So instead of trying to fix and tweak the disaster that is known as Obamacare, which is in a death spiral, okay, Republicans, it's time to offer up conservative, free market, capitalist solutions for the American people. More choices, more freedom, more free market competition. And that means letting customers buy insurance across state lines. Let it take it job to job. How many years have I been talking about healthcare savings accounts? The Cato Institute years ago, Patient Power, Goodman and Musgrave. They wrote a great book about health savings accounts, how beneficial it is to the American people. Add to that price transparency and getting rid of strict, unnecessary, burdensome government mandates that all drive up costs. In other words, the opposite of Obamacare. Now, our friend Senator Ted Cruz, he offered up a great out-of-the-box amendment, which allows people to buy health insurance plans that they want instead of what the government is dictating, the kind of coverage you must have. It's simple. You know what you need a lot more than these bureaucrats in Washington. And according to a new HHS analysis of Senator Cruz's Consumer Freedom Amendment, enrollment would actually increase more under his plan than it would under Obamacare, being forced to do it by 2024. Premiums would be dramatically lower, meaning that, God forbid, you get sick, you get hurt, you need to go to the doctor, you actually could use your plan, which so many people cannot do. Now, ideas like these, this is what Republicans need to start getting behind. And you know what? We're going to put them out there because, in spite of yourselves, we're not going to let you fail the American people that are suffering. And frankly, Republicans, you need to answer a simple question going forward. Do you want to be the party of freedom? Do you want to be the party of liberty, free market, capitalism, or not? You say you do. It's as simple as that. And also tonight, our other top story, we needed to expose the latest fake news, so-called scandal the Destroy Trump media created, and then they spread. It spread like wildfire last night. Now, the press was hysterical after a story broke about President Trump holding what the media falsely claimed was a secret meeting with Vladimir at the G20 dinner earlier this month. Now, of course, the media, they didn't do any fact-checking. They immediately went into full freak-out conspiracy mode. Take a look at this.
John McCain compares the Russia story to a centipede. There's always another shoe to drop. Well, this evening, one more piece of footgear goes Trump in the night.
This is rolling disclosure, and the only reason we know about it is because we have a vigilant press.
When this story first crossed, Trump, Putin held a second undisclosed meeting at the G20 summit. When these headlines started to cross tonight in our newsroom, it caused an audible, oh my God.
Donald Trump believed there was a VIP section at the dinner, and the VIP section was not between the wife of the president of Argentina and the wife of the prime minister of Japan.
This is just beyond pathetic. You know what? Once again, it exposes just how lazy, agenda-driven these so-called journalists are. Now, first of all, look at this photo. Look at this head photo. This wasn't a meeting, and it definitely wasn't secret. The conversation happened at a G20 dinner in front of world leaders, the media, and other guests. And what's worse is the media, they were allowed into the room a few minutes before the meal began. You're looking at the video that they shot. The media was in there. So how can you possibly say the meeting is secret or undisclosed? And there's also pictures that prove just how conspiratorial the media really is. Look at the bottom of your screen. President Trump, he's seated next to the wife of Japan's prime minister. And at the top of the screen, there's Vladimir sitting next to our first lady, Melania Trump. Now, according to the White House, at some point during the dinner, Donald Trump did something so shocking, that's never happened before. He actually walked over and talked to another guest. In this case, Vladimir Putin, who was sitting next to his wife. And guess what? President Trump and other leaders, they also got up. They also talked during the dinner. That's the entire point of the G20 summit. Now, look at all the people that were there. Just look at this. And I know the black helicopter, tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists, they're foaming at the mouth. They're bubbling over in hysteria. But it took all of, what, 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, for us to completely disprove all of their lies, all of their accusations. Now, the establishment Destroy Trump media is now, they're officially psychotic. These people need to be committed. I mean, if it wasn't so serious, it's actually laughable. They are suffering way beyond Trump derangement syndrome. They need help. And it doesn't matter what President Trump does. They're going to find a way to spin some wild conspiracy web that somehow shows it leads to Russia and collusion. You know, Russia to the media, that's like, you know, dropping Alka-Seltzer in water. They bubble and fizz and they foam at the mouth. It doesn't matter how big the story is. And by the way, wait till next week. They're going to be losing it. Oh, Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, Paul Manafort have been called to appear before Congress. But guess what? If this is the way they want to go, the road they want to go down, let's get these panels to investigate real scandals and real crimes we've been telling you about. The Ukrainian election interference, the Uranium One deal, Fusion GPS, the fake Trump dossier. All right, my advice to all of you, the Destroy Trump establishment media is simple. You gotta stop. Your credibility is already in the toilet. You're a laughingstock. Oh, maybe you don't stop. You know what? Because I'll keep laughing at you, and you can keep embarrassing yourself and exposing that you're a bunch of so lazy, overpaid, rigid, radical left-wing ideologues programmed to do one thing: hate the president. And you know what you're not doing? And this is the shame of all of it, with your 24/7 conspiracy theory TV. You're not helping the American people. You're not talking about how America can become more prosperous, how we can get people out of poverty off of food stamps and create jobs, or talking about how to keep America safe. All you care about is Russia, Russia, Russia. Nonstop. You're psychotic. You're losing it. Earlier tonight, I spoke to Kellyanne Conway, Counselor to the President. All right, let's start with health care. I'm trying to put aside my anger tonight and be more solution-oriented. I've known you for over 20 years. We've talked about health savings accounts for 20 years.
Yes.
I've had Dr. Josh Umber with the cooperative in Wichita that, you know, he's been able to help 400 other practices around the country with these cooperatives. $50 a month, 24-hour concierge care. Ted Cruz's amendment drops premiums significantly. Why, after 7 years, are we having such a hard time with Congress?
Today's lunch with the Republican senators showed the president at his finest. It's real leadership to go in there, Sean, and say, I want you to stay in Washington and do your job. What is your job? The president said, I've been here for 6 months. You've been here for 7 years, promising in 4 consecutive election cycles to repeal and replace Obamacare. The president's done his job. He ran successfully on repealing and replacing Obamacare. The House bill got passed, and he is waiting right behind me in his office, pen in hand, ready to sign it. So today, he had a very frank but respectful conversation with the senators and basically said to them to do their job and to also recognize that a no vote on the motion to proceed is a yes vote for Obamacare. And really, why are we doing this? We're doing this because of what you just said. We're doing this because Obamacare has failed for many Americans. You have 83 insurers that have fled the exchanges, with a dozen or two more promising to do so. You have premiums that were predicted to go down by $2,500 have gone up by an average of close to $3,000. You have 6.5 million Americans willing to fork over $3 billion to the IRS, Sean, in taxes and penalties rather than pay into Obamacare. And most importantly, over 1,300 counties now, if Obamacare is not repealed, over 1,300 counties will have one provider. 40 counties have 0 providers. That's not a choice. And so this is why we're doing it. I just want to say one thing. You mentioned HSAs, health savings accounts. Under the current Senate bill, which we hope they will pass and put on the Senate and the president's desk, for the first time ever, people can use that HSA money to pay for their premiums. That's the problem with Obamacare. People don't have access to insurance because they don't have access to health care because they don't have an insurance card. They have an insurance card. They can't use it because of the premiums. HSA money's to pay for the premiums. You open up a bigger market for people to get that care they deserve.
You know, I don't care if it's repeal only in a transition. I wasn't the biggest fan of the House bill, but it's a big step in the right direction.
Right.
And it allows, for example, catastrophic care, which is illegal under the Obamacare law. It allows for health savings accounts. The Cruz Amendment is very helpful for lowering premiums. The Freedom Caucus amendments, they help lower premiums. I don't know. I mean, it's so obvious and evident. Does the Republican Party in Congress want to be the party of freedom, the party of free market solutions? Because to me, it's really that basic and fundamental.
You know, that was discussed today. We're at an inflection point, really. This could be a very, very big moment for the party and certainly more importantly for the country. We need to look Americans in the eye and say, when we had a chance to pull back on the government literally standing between the doctor and the patient, between you and accessing health care for you and your family affordably and sustainably, that this president, this Congress, told the nation, we stand with you. And let's review a couple of the other great things that are on the bill. I think this is important. You have the Stability Fund, has billions of dollars more in it now. You have to stabilize these markets to help cover those with pre-existing conditions. You basically are saving Medicaid, which is completely unsustainable and unaffordable in its current configuration, so that you give those governors flexibility. $45 billion, Sean, for the opioid epidemic, which I work on every single day here. There are so many positive things. But look, any Republican senator who votes against a motion to proceed is basically saying we're proceeding with Obamacare. And very quickly, if you don't like the bill, do what Ted Cruz did. Yeah, that's right. They will be held accountable. But if you
Last
don't like
question.
the bill, do what Ted Cruz did. He offered an amendment.
right.
If you don't like it, amend it, go to the Senate floor and say how to improve it.
Let's go back to the Merkel dinner for just a minute because of the bubble and fizz hysteria on NBC and CNN. Okay, all the press knew that Melania was sitting next to Vladimir Putin. Everybody knew all of these leaders were in the room. Everybody knew that everybody would be talking. This is, what do you make? It's almost like I want to send everybody in the media. If Donald Trump drank and he doesn't, they would say, oh my God, that's Russian vodka, because they're so obsessed. What's your reaction to the media's insanity here?
Well, we talk about America, particularly Made in America week here at the White House, Sean. They get to talk about Russia, Russia, Russia again. But this one really is over the top. As you say, it was a concert and a dinner hosted by Angela Merkel. Obviously, we don't do the seating arrangements. Mrs. Trump, our wonderful First Lady, seated next to President Putin. At the end of the dinner, her husband, the president, went over to speak with her and President Putin. The only interpreter that was allowed for him was a Japanese. He chose a Japanese interpreter because he was sitting next to Mrs. Abe. Anyway, the upshot was any description of this as an undisclosed, secret, second, furtive meeting is complete nonsense. That was part of the public schedule. This is what leaders do. They talk to each other. They talk to each other in sit-downs for 2 hours and 15 minutes, just as President Putin and President Trump did. And they also talk to each other when their spouses are seated next to the world leaders. And so this is just another attempt to bring Russia into the conversation. Here at the White House, we were talking about Made in America. These people with their goods and services that are made in America, very proud from all 50 states here. The president's doing a great job putting American workers first and keeping these American factories
listen,
open.
Kellyanne, you and I both know they're never going to report on the good news. They don't seem to care about North Korea, Iran. They don't seem to care about getting Americans off of food stamps, out of poverty, and back to work. They're constant 24/7
But Sean, look at the approval ratings. Look at the approval ratings. The president is far more popular than the Congress or the media. That should tell you something.
That's true. That's true. All right. But by the way, we're not the media. We're the fair and balanced part. The rest of them are all sheep. Kellyanne, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Sean.
Up next tonight on this busy breaking news night tonight on Hannity.
Because of what Donald Trump has done in the past, reporters, foreign policy analysts, and our allies can safely assume the worst.
The establishment destroyed Trump media. They've been losing their collective minds. They're in a state of psychosis over the fact the president spoke to Vladimir Putin at a dinner that everybody knew they both attended. Dr. Gorka, well, he's not afraid to take on the liberal press. He'll join us next. And then later tonight, a very important monologue, another example of liberal hate. Rosie O'Donnell's disgusting tweet about a game that involves, killing the president. We'll examine Hollywood hate tonight, and then later, Tomi Lahren, she gets the final word. Stay with us.
It is abnormal, and it is not appropriate for his duty, and then not to disclose it only arouses further suspicions about what the hell is Donald Trump's obsession with Vladimir Putin, and why won't he be straightforward about it?
Because of what Donald Trump has done in the past, reporters, foreign policy analysts, and our allies can safely assume the worst. They can safely assume the worst of Donald Trump. They can safely assume the worst of Vladimir Putin.
I just safely assume the worst about liberal Joe, who's begging to keep his job on liberal conspiracy TV, MSNBC. Now, the destroy Trump media, the establishment media, is in full meltdown mode. Why? The president and Russian President Vladimir Putin, well, they talked at a dinner everybody knew they were attending at the G20 summit meeting earlier this month. Now, we spoke with the assistant of the president earlier tonight, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. All right, Dr. Gorka. All right. Everybody in the media knew who was in the meeting, right? There's no surprises here.
I spoke to the president. The president told me the media knew all about it. They were outside. This was an opera meal event, the goodbye for Chancellor Merkel hosting these heads of state with their wives. Again, a massive nothing burger, Sean.
So at dinner, is it really unusual to talk to the other people that are at dinner, or did I grow up in a very strange environment, or should you only talk to the people that you're seated next to only? No talking to other people?
So that's an excellent question. Can I break a story on your show, Sean?
Of course.
Maybe CNN doesn't know. Maybe the New York Times doesn't know. Maybe the fake news industrial complex doesn't know. But John F. Kennedy met with Khrushchev. It wasn't Hamburg. It was Vienna. It wasn't 2017, it was 1961, but they actually met. The head of the USSR met with the American president. Not only that, FDR, historic president, met with Joseph Stalin at the Yalta Conference. It's what presidents
you know what I want to know,
do.
Dr. Gorka? I want to know, and I think this is the very important question. We got to get Liberal Joe and Mika on it first thing tomorrow, is whether or not they serve vodka. And then if they did, we got to know if it's Russian vodka. And if it's Russian vodka, was it tainted in some way? And did Donald Trump take the first sip of alcohol in his life? That's what we need to know.
Can I tell you how we react to these stories here in the White House? We love it.
I hope you laugh.
We love it. You know why? Because it's just an indicator of one thing. They are desperate. They're desperate. We've recaptured Mosul. Illegal immigration is down. Kate's Law passed in the House. The economy is breaking records. And this is what they want to talk about. This is how you have articles in Vanity Fair that CNN is collapsing, that Zucker's going to lose his job. That's their own fault because they've created a crisis of credibility for their own lack of news.
My next question is, all right, so you have this beatdown in the media. I mean, it was brutal. When you talk about the Cartoon Network and 50-year-old reruns of Yogi Bear, Hey Boo Boo, beating picnic baskets, beating CNN fake news, have you been invited back? Do they want you on their programs anymore?
Not yet, Sean. I think they're licking their wounds. Not yet. When they want to talk about real news, I am ready and waiting. My team is ready to book me.
All right, Dr. Gorka, always good to see you, my friend. Thank you for being with us. All right, when we come back on this busy breaking news edition of Hannity, more reaction to the media meltdown over President Trump speaking to Vladimir at the G20 summit. Joe Concha, Rick Grinnell, they'll weigh in. Also tonight, Rosie O'Donnell, more left-wing hate, tweeting out a sick game about pushing the president over a cliff to kill him. These antics are not funny, especially after what happened to Steve Scalise and a hit list against Republicans. I got a mini monologue about Hollywood hate. Also, conservative political commentator Tommy Lahren will get the final word tonight as we continue.
This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Ed Henry in Washington, where tributes.
Anytime the president has just tweeted that something is fake news, we just consider that to be a day that ends in Y.
The president himself has dug in and defiantly refuses to acknowledge his own political reality.
I'm not trying to make this look sinister. I'm not sure who is. We're just wondering what happened there.
Well, actually, it's the president himself who may have made this look sinister.
Liberal Joe, we so count on you. After all, you're not a Republican, right? You're keeping your job at NBC, so you become a conspiracy theorist like everyone else there. Yet another example of the establishment, destroy Trump media, freaking out that the president at a dinner spoke to Vladimir Putin. Well, what's the dinner for? Joining us now, former U.S. spokesman for the UN ambassador, Rick Grinnell, and The Hill media reporter, Joe Concha. Maybe I'm wrong. If I don't go, I'm very proud of the fact 22 years on Fox, Joe, 30 years I have been in radio. I have not been to one Washington Correspondents' Dinner. And I'll be very honest why. I don't like those people. And they don't really like me. So I don't want to hobnob with the elitists in the media. And I listen to this obsession of theirs, and then I think, okay, did they cover the economy? Did they cover prosperity, creating jobs, energy independence, America's safety and security? Nope. It's all this 24/7 on two cable networks. What's your reaction?
My reaction is I have to correct you. You've only been on Fox for 21 years. The network has been in existence since 1996.
21 and a half. Get it right.
Okay. 21 and a half. That's fair. Look, this is the media that cried wolf once again. Or in this case, the media that cried niet. I mean, in other words, would this be a story if President Trump had met with a Merkel or a Macron or a May, the leaders of Germany or France or England? No, of course not. And how do you have a secret meeting meeting in plain sight, where there's video everywhere, there are leaders everywhere. This is just another example of the media overplaying its hand, and unfortunately, Sean, suffering from what's called acute Russia fatigue. And even Alison Camerata, nice gal, used to work here, she's on CNN now, even she says that she is suffering from Russia fatigue because even one day last week, her show covered Russia, 93% of the show. It is a remarkable number considering everything else that's going on in this country and in the world.
Do you go to dinner? When you go to dinner, do you talk to the other people at the dinner, or you only talk to the people next to you? Is there a rule that I don't know about something, Joe?
There is a rule that my friends have, and whenever we go out, it's not often, we got little kids now, but when we do go out, we put all of our phones into the middle of the table, and the first one to grab it has to pay for that dinner. In other words, we're always locked in our phones, nobody has conversations, but yes, of course you talk to people when you're at dinner, and particularly if it's Vladimir Putin.
Now, Rick, I don't know. I mean, look, you worked with the UN ambassador, and I don't know. I just assume that people, when they see each other, they talk to each other, especially when there were cameras in the room and everybody knows everybody's at the dinner. Maybe there's a new rule. You're only supposed to talk to this person and that person, but nobody else.
I've been at hundreds of these diplomatic dinners, and people always get up and move different seats. Sometimes they do a pull aside and they chat. This is where the real work is done. Sean, one thing I want to point out is that journalists at the State Department, journalists who cover international affairs consistently, journalists who look at substance, did not find anything wrong with this. It was just the political media. And we're at the point now where the political media gets on the front page of the paper and they get to do all the headlines. But I think the editors and the news directors need to dial this back and say this silly kind of gossip reporting that political reporters are doing is not the substance. You know, I'm tired of listening to an analysis of a handshake. What we have to be able to do is talk about policy. Why aren't we saying what was discussed there? Did we make some progress on Syria? Did we make some progress on some other issues? But the substance is pushed off the page because the political reporters are being rewarded.
I'm never going to, if we go to dinner, the three of us, I'm not talking to you two, because it might be reported that we had a conversation.
Either way, with what you make, Sean, you're paying. I'm just saying.
No, I'm going to be the one that grabs my phone because I'm obsessed. I can't help it's 3 in the morning. I'm grabbing my phone and tweeting, as you know.
Don't sleep with it. No.
All right, guys. Good to see you both.
Good to see you.
Appreciate it. When we come back, Hollywood liberals will not stop with their hate, their nonsense, their advocating of violence even. This time the culprit, the one and only Rosie O'Donnell, tweeting a game that allows people to push the president off a cliff and kill him. I'll explain in a mini monologue tonight. Also, Lou Dobbs with reaction, and also tonight.
Yes, the unloving and intolerant left is at it again, and this time Rosie wants us to push a United States president off a cliff and laugh about it. Lovely.
All right, Tommy Lahren delivers tonight's final word as we continue tonight on Hannity. Welcome back to Hannity. So Rosie O'Donnell's latest sad, pathetic, irrational hatred for the president incident, it's just not going away. And over the weekend, she joined many of her unhinged Hollywood friends and, quote, joked about calling for the death of our commander-in-chief by promoting a game called Push Donald Trump Off a Cliff again. So why are so many so-called peace-loving Hollywood elitists actively, supposedly joking, and in some cases rooting for violence against the president of the United States? We explore this in tonight's mini monologue. All right, this past weekend, Rosie O'Donnell, she tweeted out a link to a sick anti-Trump online game. Now, it encourages users to push an image of President Trump to his death, giving players the option to push him off a cliff or into a volcano or into an open manhole in New York City or even into the mouth of a dinosaur. And of course, this disgusting game, well, is meant supposedly in jest, but is it really? But by promoting this, Rosie O'Donnell is now joining the growing list of Hollywood elites who dehumanize President Trump, normalize violence against him and other Republicans. And this includes Kathy Griffin, who posed, remember, this picture, so disturbing. Every time we show, we have to issue a warning in case your kids are in the room. Now, it's an ISIS-style photo shoot featuring Griffin holding a fake, but very realistic-looking, bloodied, severed head of President Trump. There's also Madonna. She's advocating blowing up the White House. She fantasizes about it.
Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I am outraged. Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Think an awful lot about blowing up the White House. Now, you might also remember this Snoop Dogg music video. Remember, that featured a mock execution of a person dressed as President Trump. Take a look at this. Was Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, any liberal? Now, it's not just Snoop Dogg. Marilyn Manson, he also released a music video with images of President Trump's murder. Mickey Rourke, he threatened to beat Trump with a baseball bat. Robert De Niro, he talked about punching Donald Trump in the face. And you can't forget what Johnny Depp also said. Take a look.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president? I want to clarify, I'm not an actor. I lie for a living.
Just like Donald.
However, it's been a while. And maybe it's time.
Now, let's not forget about Shakespeare in the Park, where a President Trump lookalike got stabbed to death during a New York City performance of Julius Caesar. Now, I could keep going. You get the point. Hollywood hates President Trump, and Rosie O'Donnell and all her liberal friends and celebrities, they are normalizing violence against the administration, against our elected president. Now, tonight, while Congressman Steve Scalise is also recovering after being shot by a deranged left-wing gunman hell-bent on killing as many Republicans as possible on his kill list. Now, is it really responsible for Rosie to gleefully tweet out a game urging users to push the president off a cliff? So is Rosie. These Hollywood elites, are they ever going to see through this blind, bizarre, psychotic hatred and realize that their actions and statements do have consequences? And finally, is Hollywood ever going to stop rooting for the president to die, to fail, to get impeached, and maybe start rooting for this country to succeed? I doubt that's ever going to happen. And up next, right here, tonight on Hannity.
We are so close. The way I looked at it, you know, we have no Democrat help. They're obstructionists. That's all they're good at, is obstruction.
Absolutely. That's all they're good at. That was President Trump earlier today, going after Democrats, sabotaging his efforts to repeal Obamacare. Lou Dobbs will join us next with reaction, and also tonight.
Can you imagine if a conservative promoted a game like this about Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton? Imagine the liberal outcry. Imagine the labels. Racist, sexist, bigot, deplorable. Pick one or all of them.
Tommy Lahren, she's here with the final word tonight, as she is all week. That and more on this busy breaking news night tonight on Hannity.
We are so close. The way I looked at it, you know, we have no Democrat help. They're obstructionists. That's all they're good at, is obstruction. They have no ideas. They've gone so far left. They're looking for single payer. That's what they want. But single payer will bankrupt our country.
All right, that was the president ripping earlier today, talking about how Democrats are offering zero help to fix the problems in the country. No ideas, nothing to fix the disaster that they created, known as Obamacare. Here with reaction, author of the book, Putin's Gambit, Fox Business host Lou Dobbs. You know, I'm watching them all celebrating. I'm watching them all really happy, Lou, and I'm thinking, now, hang on a second. Millions lost their doctors, millions lost their plans. There is what percentage of counties in the country now that only have one option? That's it, one. They're mandated to buy it. The average increase in premiums since Obamacare has been in place, what, $6,000, $8,000 a year? Mm-hmm. This isn't funny to me or to the American people. And they don't offer any ideas.
Yeah, nor should it be to anyone. And if there's anything I fault the Republicans for, rather than their inaction in the Senate, it is that they're not telling the American people the truth of what's going on. We've seen the number of people covered by Obamacare drop by 20%. We have seen the cost of expanding Medicaid. It is actually 40% higher than the federal outlays in the exchanges for Obamacare. While premiums are spiraling, deductibles are bone-crushing to families all over the country, We're watching the Democrats and Chuck Schumer acting like they're some kind of cute because they're not participating in this constitutional republic.
They created the mess. You know what? They made the biggest mess ever, and the president's right. What they really want is to go deeper into the mess.
Right.
You know, they think, oh, Canada's single-payer system is so great. Well, if it's so great, then why do all the tens of thousands flock to the United States when they need emergency heart surgery or cancer treatment? If their system was so great, why don't they just stay in their own country?
And the venal national left-wing media, Sean, as you well know, their stories are all about the Obama legacy of Obamacare is far more difficult than President Trump thought it would be, or Mitch McConnell or Paul Ryan thought it would be. That part is probably true, except what they're really talking about is punishment of millions of Americans who cannot afford Obamacare. They are simply losing access to Obamacare. Fewer Americans, by the millions, are able to afford and find some way to get
All right, so here's the
care.
next question.
It's crazy.
Here's the next question. Lou, look, I've known you for years. You've been on the air for a long time. You've spent years, like 5 years. It's just a great career. I'm really proud. I'm really proud of you. You've done really well for yourself.
Thank you, sir.
All right, but here's the truth. How many times have we discussed health savings accounts? How many years? How many decades? How many times have we talked about health cooperatives? How many times have we talked about free markets, the party of freedom, capitalism, competition, driving down prices, increasing services? Where's this Republican Party? They're non-existent.
And suddenly there's no talk about providing insurance and allowing competition, insurance companies being able to compete across state lines, talking about how to do what the president promised that we would do, which is reduce premiums for health care, improve the quality of care in this country for all Americans. And we are, he said, and not in my judgment, entirely jokingly, that we should just let the Obamacare mess spiral to a complete and final resting place, and then try and just wait for the Democrats to come to the table and get serious. It may take that, by the way, for the Democrats to join Republicans to care about Americans.
Do you care if it's repeal and transition as long as they don't blow the budget out on it? Or do you care if they do repeal and replace with, for example, the cruise provision, which I liked a lot? It drives premiums down dramatically, just like the Freedom Caucus did. I'll take either one at this point. But I don't even know if they can get that done and over the finish line.
Yeah, so long as we all understand, repeal means eliminating higher taxes that were put in place by President Obama and the Dems when creating Obamacare. Those taxes have got to be eliminated. We've got to see a real, intelligent, free market solution to health care in this country, because that's the future. We're not going to be able to...
Is there a party that represents free markets anymore? Is there a party of freedom anymore? Capitalism anymore?
Well, we're hanging on in the Republican Party to our principles, and we've just got to energize some of the leadership in both the House and the Senate.
All right, Lou Dobbs. You know what? We should go to Congress and the Senate. You and I can solve all their problems.
Yeah, you know what?
It's called freedom. Freedom works.
Let's go get them.
Why do I know you're dead serious? All right, Lou Dobbs.
Thanks so much, Sean.
Absolutely is right. And up next tonight on this busy breaking news night on Hannity.
Here's the deal. These people aren't funny. They're pathetic, and they're disturbed. And our prayers really do go out to them.
Our friend Tomi Lahren, she is back with a final word, not only tonight, but the rest of the week. That's next, straight ahead. And welcome back to Hannity. So all this week, our friend, conservative political commentator Tomi Lahren gets the final word on the program, and here's tonight's final word.
Hey, Sean. Final word tonight dedicated to yet another case of Trump derangement syndrome. Yes, the unloving and intolerant left is at it again, and this time Rosie wants us to push a United States president off a cliff and laugh about it. Lovely. Just when we thought the Hollywood liberals may have learned from Kathy Griffin, Johnny Depp, Madonna, and the rest of the psychos, no, they're still in their Hollywood elitist bubble and displaying their true colors with yet another celebration of a Trump assassination. And Rosie has the audacity to say Trump is mentally unstable? Really, Rosie? But can you imagine if a conservative promoted a game like this about Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton? Imagine the liberal outcry. Imagine the labels. Racist, sexist, bigot, deplorable. Pick one or all of them. Sean, I, for one, am sick and tired of being called all of those things for being a supporter of the president, but meanwhile, Hollywood hate gets a pass. But here's the deal. These people aren't funny, they're pathetic, and they're disturbed. And our prayers really do go out to them. And that's the final word, Sean.
All right, Tommy, well said. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have left this evening. As always, thank you for being with us. This show will always be fair and balanced. We're not the establishment media, thank God. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.